Welcome to our custom space where dreams take flight. Epoxy visions come to life. It's a perfect sight. We pull together, blooming three.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK, and I hope you're all doing well. So this is going to be another bloom video, but again with a difference. And all I've done so far is I've mixed up about 3 ounces of resin, put it through my debubbler, and we are at about 32.5 degrees, so I've still got a few minutes to play with. But it occurred to me, I've never seen a 3D bloom with a real bloom as the centre. So I've got these from Resiners, which are dried real flowers. And I just wanted to see what it would look like with hopefully using complementing alcohol inks for the bloom, but using one of these real flowers as the centre. Whether it would look like an extension of the actual flowers or not, I don't know. I got these from Resiners. Again, if you guys want anything from their website, I also use the bubble removal machine from there quite often. In fact, I say quite often, in every project, I think. So if you want a discount code, use the code ccukresin. And if you're new to blooms as well, guys, it's all about temperature. So for this project, I'm going to be using the Apex Resin high gloss, which I find the right temperature for me is around about 35-36 degrees for it to bloom at its best. Different resins have different temperatures, and you just need to keep playing with it until you find out the right temperature. So as you can see, these flowers come attached to a card, I think. There we go. And I'm thinking, just looking at it, just that one there is the one that I want in the centre. And then I've picked some Let's Resin alcohol inks, different sort of shades of oranges and yellows, which I think will complement that bloom. And it's just a quick experiment to see what it looks like, because I've not seen anybody else do it yet. And I'm just curious as to what it will look like. And I've never worked with real dried flowers before either. So that'll be an interesting experiment in itself. As to whether or not I can get them in the centre. I'm just trying to peel this one off, hopefully without damaging it, because they are quite fragile. They come on these like plastic sheets, and to me they just feel really fragile, so I don't want to rip it. There we go. So I've got that off. There is a little tiny one attached to it, if you can see there, but I don't think that would look bad in the centre. It seems to be missing a petal, but I don't think that'll matter when the bloom's in. So this is obviously the back, and it's probably going to be important to make sure I get it the right way around. So that is going to be the centre of my 3D bloom. And I suppose it's a way of a real bloom meeting a 3D bloom and seeing what results we get. So I'm just going to leave that to the side and making sure it's the right way round, but they are really fragile and I don't want to damage it either. So that is going to be the centre of my bloom. I'm going to be using the, as I say, the Let's Resin alcohol inks, and look at that, we're already up to 34, because I find that for me, they give me the best colours, and that's why I really like using them. For the white, for this bloom, I'm going to use the Ocean White from Let's Resin, and in fact, I'm going to mix that now, just whilst it's still heating up a little bit. Again, I'm not going to need a lot, just enough to pipe in these petals. So probably I go with around about 1/3 of one of these espresso cups, and I think that'll be enough. So that's going to be for my white, and all I'm going to do is just over a drop of this Ocean White should be enough to give me some really nice petals. So again, as you can see, when it wants to come out, I just want one drop, which should be enough. I might start storing this upside down, actually. There we go. So one drop and a little bit of string. And I think that should be more than enough to create my petals. And I'm going to pipe this because I'm better at piping than pouring from a cup. I know some people can do it really well from a cup, but for me, it just works better if I pipe it. It gives me a little bit more control. So as you can see, there's that one drop and a little bit of string in there. Just going to literally mix it all around, making sure it's all fully mixed. And it is starting to feel warm already, which is a good sign. And you want it to be quite opaque, but still transparent enough that you can see the back of your stick. And I think that's about right for me. I could add a tiny bit more, but I don't think I want to for this. I think that will be enough. And as you can see, it's opaque, but there is still an element of translucency to it. So all I'm going to do, I've got a small piping bag here, is pour the white all into there. And then that will be my white when it comes to piping the petals. And if I've not said it to you guys yet on the channel, Happy New Year as well. And I hope 2025 brings you everything you want. There we go. So the resin's now 35.3. I'm happy to go with it. This mold holds about 4 ounces, and all it is sort of a 10 centimeter round mold. But again, I want to leave a bit of space in case I want to put a back on it. I don't always, but sometimes I do. And what I'm aiming for a bloom, I tend to find that they work better if you have around about 1/2 centimeter of space. For them to bloom. If you do it too thin, I don't think they bloom properly. And if you do it too thick, it's just a waste of resin. So first thing I'm going to do is, using one of my silicone tools, is go around the edge of the mold, because that is where the bubbles will like to stay. And any that I can see on the base, just flicking them up to the top so that I can get them with my torch, because the last thing I want, if this turns into one of my favourite pieces, is a bubble spoiling it. And some of them are a little bit finicky, so you just have to keep moving around until you can get them to the top, and just try and make sure that you get them all. Without adding too many in when you're doing it. So there we go. Pretty happy that that is now bubble free. So the first thing I'm going to do for this is actually put that real bloom in. And if you're using a torch like this, don't get too close to your edges, guys, because it will bond to the resin. I've ruined a couple of molds doing that, so just be conscious. So before I go in with the alcohol inks, I'm just going to get this bloom, the real one, and hopefully get it somewhere in the center, and then just press it down like so. And now it's still floating on the top, so what I need to do is just push it down with my silicone tool so that hopefully it gets covered in resin and it goes down to the base. Now the resin is already thickening up a little bit, but I don't want to spoil the petals on it either, because that for me is what's going to really add to this piece. And what I might do actually is just pour, I've got a tiny bit left in my cup, over the top, and that should hopefully help it sink down a little bit, because they do want to float. Come on. And that way I know it's completely covered in resin, and that should hopefully sink down a little bit to the bottom, not float up and affect my bloom too much. But again, it's the first time I've done this, guys, so it's an experiment. I don't know if this will impact my bloom, and whether I should have just poured it straight onto the silicone mold first before I put my resin in. But again, when I'm doing this, I'm trying not to introduce bubbles as well. Just pressing it down to the bottom, so hopefully it's going to keep it down and not impact on the bloom. But we'll see. Again, I'm hoping I don't get any nasty air bubbles, so I'm just going to go over it again now with the torch to get rid of any bubbles that I may have just introduced. And I think that's sitting near the base, so I'm happy with that. So that is going to be the center of this bloom. Next, I'm going to go in with the alcohol inks, and I've just got a mix of different ones from Let's Resin. And I think for this one, I actually want it to be darker on the outside and slightly lighter on the inside. So I'm going to put a couple of drops of yellow in the center. Oops, and I didn't want it to squirt everywhere like that, but there we go. I'm going to be mixing the colours anyway, so I'm not too fussed. And then I'm going to go around with a slightly darker sort of orange. And then I've got a really dark one for the edge as well. And as I say, I'm going to blend these colours a little bit anyway. Spreading nicely though, and you can see it almost makes a petal-like shape anyway. So the next one we're going to go in with is just the standard orange, which is the darkest colour I want for this. And hopefully these colours will go really nicely together and give us a nice bloom. Now what I'm going to do, just to really mix in those colours, is just get my silicone stick and mix them around a little bit. Again, I really liked that one, so I'm just going to put a drop more of this in as well. Just think it's a very different sort of shade. There we go. And then mix them all around. And then I'm going to put a drop of the lighter one in. Now I've got to be careful here because I don't want to disturb the actual bloom in the centre either. But I do want these colours to sort of intermix so that hopefully we get some different shades in those petals when they're done. So there we go. And then I'm just going to add one more drop of that yellow to the centre to keep that as the brightest sort of spot. And I think that's going to make a lovely bloom with those yellows and oranges all mixing together. And hopefully it will go with the original colour of the bloom that I put in there. So now I'm going to go in and pipe. If you've not seen me do this before on the channel, it's pretty straightforward. Now at this point as well, remember you can't use your torch because your alcohol inks are in there, which are highly flammable. So you don't want to do that, otherwise you will set your workstation on fire. Also, you'll have to excuse my voice, it's a little bit croaky at the minute. But there we go, that is my white ready to go. And I'm just going to go for a standard spiral design first and then decide what design I'm going to pour in. So I'm really happy with those colours. So I'm just going to get my scissors and snip off. Where I tend to snip off is where, on this one, it's probably going to be about halfway in that air bubble. And that should give me about 2 or 3 mils of space. If I've got my temperature right, it should just drip out by itself. There we go, which it is doing. So I'm going to go in with my spiral. Again, starting from the centre. I know that that bloom in the centre is probably going to be covering most of it anyway. But I'm going to start off quite thin. And just go around, getting that spiral shape in there. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect, guys, but you want enough in there to give it the best chance of blooming. I think some people, that's where they go wrong with the blooms. They don't put enough in. And you've got to give it enough, and this even might be a little bit thin, I'm not sure, to actually bloom. So next thing I'm going to do is go in with my silicone tool. Now that centre bit is possibly going to blob, so that's why I'm just pulling that round like that. And then I'm going to do the standard clock design first of all. So bring it in like so. And I always wipe my stick afterwards, guys, because otherwise you're just almost tempting fate with all the extra white that you're putting in the centre. So again, nothing special with this. The main thing I want to see is what that real bloom is going to look like as the centre of this bloom. And hopefully I'm not peeling up the petals of it as I'm doing this. I'm trying to be gentle. I'm trying to just skim that surface. and hopefully bring all these colours in together. And I don't think I'm going to swirl this one either, because hopefully that real bloom will be the one that actually creates that colour. And I'm going to go in on all these again because I want thinner petals for this. Like so. But let me know in comments, guys, what do you think it's going to turn out like? And I've had a few people mention that they're really struggling with blooms. Just keep at it until you get it. When you get it, you'll never look back. But it's just practicing until you get your temperature right for your resin. And there we go. I think I'm happy with that. So now I'm just going to leave that probably 3 or 4 hours. And hope, as I say, that it does actually bloom and go in, and then decide whether or not to put it back on. I've not pulled them back out either on this one because I want them to keep that uniform petal shape. So we'll see what it turns out like, and I'll see you guys in about 3 hours. Hey guys, and we're back, and it's probably been about 6 hours. So this looks like it has, first of all, bloomed really nicely, which is lovely to see. Hopefully it's going to be nice on the other side. So all I've done is I've mixed up 60ml, because I do want to give this a backing, I think. And I was thinking about what colours to use, and I thought green might sort of stand out quite well. So I've got this green mica powder. Which is going to be the base, but I don't think it's going to be dark enough. So I'm going to add some alcohol to it just to darken it a little bit. So again, putting a decent sized scoop of this light green mica powder in. I don't want it too dark. And I think if I go with this sort of lightish colour and just add a few drops of the forest green alcohol from Let's Resin, then we should get quite a nice colour. And then I'm also going to experiment with adding a little bit of glitter to this as well, because I've got some green laser glitter, and I just thought that might make the back really pop. So I've mixed up this resin, and so it's about 60ml. Should be enough to give me a decent coat on the back. And I'm just mixing it round in the cup, and that's quite a nice green actually. Possibly still a little bit too bright, so I'm going to add a little bit more of this forest green, and I think that should be enough now, just to give it a darker tone. Now again, I could add black to this now if I wanted to, or something like that, but I don't want it too dark anyway. I just want it to be a little bit darker, and that's what the alcohol ink does when you add it to the mica, so I'm pretty happy with that as a colour. But just to add a little something extra, I've got this green laser glitter from Resiners. So I'm going to add a scoop of that to it as well, just to hopefully get a bit of a glitteriness to it. Look at that, all of those colours. And hopefully that will still make the bloom pop whilst not taking away from the bloom, which is the key with your backing. You don't want it to take away from the actual bloom itself. So again, just going to go in 2 scoops, I think. And that should be enough, just to hopefully get a bit of glitter popping through as well, just to add something else to the bloom. And that mixed in with those micas and the alcohol ink should give us a nice back. Look at that. Really happy with that. So hopefully it's going to be a good piece. And now all I'm going to do is just literally pour it in. And then we can demold tomorrow once it's fully cured. And there we go. That seems to be about right. So I'm going to pour the extra. I'm using an egg mold at the minute as a drip mold. Again, it's something I've not used as a drip mold before, but I think it'll look quite cool once it's filled. And it will take a little while, I think, to fill this. But never waste your resin, guys. Always use it, every drop of it. So there we go. And then I'm just going to give my stick a wipe. And then we can torch the bubbles. And as I say, it should be ready to demold tomorrow. And I'm hoping for a nice piece because it's my first bloom of 2025. So it'd be great to start the year off with a success. And looking at the back of it, it looked really nice. So hopefully the front will look just as nice, if not better. So again, just going to torch off the excess bubbles now. And again, try not to go too close to the side of your mould if you're doing this. I just prefer a torch to alcohol because alcohol stays in your air for a lot longer. So I'm going to come back in about 5-10 minutes just to torch off any excess bubbles that have risen. And then that's it. We should be able to demold this tomorrow and see what effects we've got. So hopefully it's going to be a good one. And whilst you're here, guys, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference to the channel's growth. If you can, put a comment in, share it, you know, it all helps the channel. So if you can do that, that'd be brilliant. And I'll see you tomorrow for demold. Hey guys, and it is now the next day, so I'm looking forward to demolding this and hopefully having the first successful bloom of the year. But look at that green glitter mixed in with the mica. I think it's created a really nice little background. So we will see. I'm just hoping the blooms turned out because, as we all know, they don't always turn out. But I'm hoping the first one of the year has. So it's come out of the mould okay, which is a good start. And here we go. Wow. I'm liking that. I'm not sure about the background colour. Again, I think that probably would have been better in black, but I wanted to do something different. And I tell you what, I really like the real bloom in the centre. Even with that little tiny one there. I think it's a case of real bloom meets a 3D bloom. So let me know what you think in comments, guys, and do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll get you a few close-up shots of this one as well at the end. But as I say, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel and let me know what you think. But I think it's been a good success to start the year off. Nice bloom.
Welcome to our custom space where dreams take flight. Epoxy visions coming to life. It's a perfect sight. We born together, blooming free, resin family. Testing my guts, new creation.